My name's Lauren Fisher. I've been a professional photographer since 1978. And I started working in the digital realm, interestingly enough, at the Summer Olympics in Korea, in Seoul, in whatever year that was, '88. And they had this radical machine that would scan negatives and transmit pictures right out of it, called the Leaf Scan. And I went there and they trained me how to use this thing. And then my job was to train photographers from all over the world how to use this to transmit pictures from the remote locations in around the Olympics. And it was real interesting. One guy was from Italy and he didn't speak English and I didn't speak Italian. And I was able to train him, which was just a marvel of how good the machine was. So got into digital pretty early, and Photoshop, used that, started in the early 90s. I just ran across my copy on a little floppy disk of version 1, and became probably an expert in the photography side of it. There's so much in Photoshop that I've only met one person who knows it all, and she works for Adobe. But then Lightroom came along, and initially Lightroom was purely a database program. It was made to organize and make it easy to find photos. So I already had a system, so I had purchased it and looked at it and didn't do much for me. Then they upgraded a couple versions and I took another look and it's like, no, it's still not doing anything. And then version 5 hit and it's like, well, wait a minute. Now they've added some things that really make it pretty interesting. So at that point, I started using it for my database, keeping track of all my photos and some of the toning aspects. It got better as it got going. And now I'm at the point where all my photos go through Lightroom initially. And about 85%, that's all they see. I don't take them to Photoshop. I don't need to. I can do about everything I want to them in Lightroom, which is great because I can do it faster. I can do it better. And if you can do it faster and better, there's not much reason to not use it. So Photoshop we'll talk more about later, but I only use it for when I'm doing major cloning or need to do some layering or heavy duty masking, which like I say, we'll talk about later. So at this point, I'm a loyal fan of Lightroom and what it does, both in the organizational side and on the develop to make your pictures pop, because every photo now needs to be touched. The sad reality is, if you're not doing something to your photo, what comes out of the camera isn't good enough anymore. You need to give it a little bit to bring it up to the standard of what it looked like, what you're taking a photo of. So some people think that means they failed as a photographer in the field. That's not true at all. And as we talk more about the develop module in the next session, not tonight, you'll understand why. So I would like to start off with introductions and know who you are and how much you've used Lightroom, if any. And if not, that's fine, because you're going to learn it all in these classes. So let's start with the online folks. Audrey, you're first with the A. So you want to tell us who you are, where you are, and your Lightroom experience, please?
I have no Lightroom experience. I'm interested in photography. I'm in the process of writing a book, which I want to tie my writing with my pictures, and I kind of am clueless in what I'm doing.
On the writing side too? No. What kind of book?
Kind of education, inspirational, yeah, a lot, using parables, kind of giving my life story kind of deal.
Great. Very good. Mark, you want to tell us about you?
Sure. I do use Lightroom somewhat, mainly as a database. I bring them in, I bring everything into Lightroom first, save it into a folder, and then massage it a little bit there, then move it to Photoshop, or something I use Topaz Labs a lot for different software.
Okay.
That's what I use Lightroom for. I like to, I don't really, when I use all the different adjustments in Lightroom, I really don't know what I'm doing. I just try things until I finally get something I like. So it's, you know, hit or miss. And I just
That's what all of us do.
mostly missing until I finally hit. And then I move into Photoshop or Topaz Labs. I'm in Maryland right now, outside between DC and Baltimore.
Okay.
I'm just a hobbyist. I just take pictures traveling or outside my house, whatever.
Great. Marcia, tell us about you. Where are you, Marcia?
Today I'm in Southern California,
Oh, okay.
and I do use Lightroom, although I'm constantly learning, and fortunately have Lauren as a resource to ask lots of questions of, because I get stuck a lot. I have a son who's in the whole media business on YouTube, and so he is always telling me what Lightroom is and what it isn't. And so my main thing is, of course, the filing I just love, and I'm still learning about using some of the tools, but I think I'm getting better.
Great. Marcia just got back from Iceland with a workshop I did there. So
Fantastic. I'm dying to go back.
From New York and Chicago, so I didn't know where if she'd landed back home yet or not. So
Got back last night from Chicago.
Great. Paul, you want to tell us about you?
Sure. I've been in photography for a while. Probably been doing Lightroom for about 5 or 6 years. I'd say I'm fair to middling at it. I've taken some courses at some local photo shops, Hunt's Photo, if you're familiar with that, in the Boston area.
Yes.
And my wife and I have attended a few classes at Maine Media up in Rockport, Maine. So we've taken both photography and then have classroom experience in Lightroom. So need to get more involved in the development aspect of it to understand that a little better and be better and more proficient at that.
Great. I'm going to walk around and stand in front of the people who are in person. So hopefully the microphone will pick up them when they're talking. So you won't see them, but you'll hear them as I run to the back. You want to start off? Tell us about you.
My name is Ricardo, and I started out in photography, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 years ago. I used to have a studio for film years ago. And I stopped because of work, and I just maybe in the last 4 or 5 years picked up a digital camera, and sort of starting all over again, you might say. Although I enjoy travel, I've been to West Africa, I've been to Cuba. I love to photograph.
Great.
My turn?
You're up.
I'm Michael Gordon. I grew up on Adamsville Road around the corner here. I had the Adamsville Road Courier News paper route for several years, which earned me enough money to buy my first camera. So that's when I started to get interested in photography. I travel a lot for work, and I enjoy photography as part of my travels. I have Lightroom. I don't use it a lot. I use the Nick collection more than that, but I'd like to be more familiar with it and more comfortable with it.
Okay.
My name is Glenn Clark. Fairly new to New Jersey. However, I'm not new to Lightroom. I've used it for a lot of years. I kind of transitioned from Aperture over to Lightroom. Gone back and forth between Lightroom and Photoshop, when needed, but always just looking for, a couple of extra things to use and helpful, develop shortcuts from experts like you, and just use it all the time. So I know there are better ways. My workflow could be better. I know that, but just here to learn a little bit.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. So one of the most important things about any software now is there's multiple ways of doing everything. And I have found that if I try to teach people multiple ways, all I do is confuse them. So I'm going to show you the way I use it, and some of the shortcuts I use and the things I do. I'm not saying that's the absolute best way. For most things, I think it's pretty efficient. And where I've come across inefficiencies over the years, I've tried to rethink and revamp what I'm doing. So as we go through, if I say something and you've been using Lightroom for a while and you say, wait a minute, I do this a different way, that's fine. That's just, there's multiple ways of approaching all of it. So I'm going to share my screen. Oops, I hit the wrong button already. And so folks online will hopefully see. I don't know which Lightroom one is it? Not that one, not that. Yeah, we'll just do it. Okay, so online folks, are you now seeing my Lightroom desktop instead of a face?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, good. Good. If that happens to go away, somebody holler. So the most important concept of Lightroom is Lightroom doesn't ever work on your, doesn't ever touch your original photos, okay? It is a non-destructive program, meaning that everything it does is only referencing the original photo. And what you see in Lightroom is just a preview that the program has created. And it has a set of instructions, which Lightroom calls a sidecar, which is just a text file that is very small. You can't access it, you can't read it. It'd be just a bunch of gobbledygook if you came across it. It is on your computer somewhere. So every image that you see in Lightroom is really just a preview of your original. And then it has that sidecar that hangs on to the instructions of what you've done to the photo, whether you've developed it, whether you've added keywords, whether you've put it on a map, whatever you've done to it, it remembers all of that. And so you have a full history of everything you've ever done to your photo. So if you do something and you think, uh-oh, I screwed it up, you can always go back and go to an earlier version, or go back a step, or you go back 300 steps, or you can see what you did 2 years ago if it was that long ago. And that's a very important concept, because the way they've set up Lightroom is very logical, except for 1/2 things. When you first bring photos into Lightroom, you hit a button that says import, which makes me think that my photo is actually going into Lightroom. It is not. So your photo is sitting on a hard drive someplace. Lightroom is accessing that photo, and when you import, what it's really doing is making a preview of the photo and then creating that sidecar that we talked about. So your original photo is sitting someplace, and we'll talk about where and why you might put it first. But first, let's talk about how Lightroom works. Lightroom has what is called a catalog. And if you think of the catalog as the same as the old card catalog in your public library, it works very much the same way. The book is not in the card catalog. The book is sitting over on the shelf somewhere. Okay, whoever's making so much noise, mute somebody needs to mute, or I'm gonna mute you. So your catalog is your card catalog. Your library of books, your shelves of books, are a hard drive sitting somewhere. It might be an internal hard drive, it might be an external hard drive, doesn't matter. So you can only have one catalog open at a time. You can have multiple catalogs, but I can't think of any reason to. I used to think of some reasons to, and then I decided those were bad reasons. So right now in my catalog, I have let's see, 56,262 photos. Your catalog will hold millions of photos, okay? So when I first started using Lightroom, I was doing some wedding photography at the time. I was the photographer for a bicycle race here in Somerville. It happens every year, and I'd shoot thousands of pictures of that. I had a dog pet studio at my sister-in-law's store in downtown Somerville, and so I had a catalog for that. And then I had a catalog for my scenic photos, and I had a catalog for my family photos. So I had to remember which catalog was my, you know, if I needed a photo, which catalog was that in? Well, it was kind of, okay, probably. But what happened when I had a dog photo at the tour of Somerville? Was that in that, which catalog was that in? Or, you know, so it quickly occurred to me, throw them all in one catalog and let Lightroom do the work. You know, that's what it's built for, is to find things and to sort them out. So let Lightroom do your work. So if you have more than one catalog, it's real easy to combine them. And if you've never used Lightroom, the first thing you do when you open it up is come under File and New Catalog. But it will ask you automatically when you first fire up the program to create a catalog. So once you create a new catalog, and I'm going to go ahead and create a test catalog just to show everyone what it looks like. If I can spell here. Let me just throw it on my desktop. Create. There's a catalog. Oh, I already have a test one. I'm going to replace it. Well, it won't let me create. Test cat. Okay. Probably don't have one called that. So as you can see, when I open up another catalog, my existing catalog closes automatically. So this is what a catalog looks like. And all catalogs, all Lightroom modules, which we'll talk about in a second, have a similar look. They have 3 columns. So on the left column is something, in the middle is something, and on the right is something, depending on which module you're in. So up in the upper right corner are the modules. You have the library module, which is how you organize. You have the develop module, which is where you make the pictures look good. You have the map module, which lets you plot your images on a map. Haven't found a good use for that yet. And they haven't upgraded that in 2 or 3 versions, which always tells me something. They have the book module, which lets you make books. They haven't upgraded that in about 4 versions, which tells me even more. And frankly, it's not the best way to make a book. They have a slideshow module, which also has not been upgraded lately, which lets you make a slideshow out of whatever photos you're looking at on the screen. It is pretty cumbersome also. Don't recommend that either. They have the print module, which is what you use when you're going to make a print to a local printer, to one that's hooked to your computer. If you're going to print and send it to a lab, you don't use the print module. We'll talk about that on the last night. And then there's a web module if you want to build a website with your images. And that's one of the worst ways to build a website. So 4 of the 7 modules, frankly, suck. But the other 3 are tremendous. So we're going to concentrate on the other 3, the library, the develop, and the print. Okay. So when you're first starting out, you see you have a catalog, and in the left column, the top is Navigator, which I'll talk about in a bit. But you have your catalog for photographs. It shows how many photographs you have, synced photographs, collections. We're going to talk about that, and how many you imported the last time. And I forgot to grab a card, and so I can import some photos. Let me grab a camera that has a card in it. Okay, so I'm just sticking the, it's going to give me a mad error. I'm just sticking a card in my computer that I took out of the camera, and then I'm going to click on the import, and that's how I get photos into my catalog. So you can see now the me move this for our local folks. The look has changed. We now have the import screen up. And when you're importing, you have several options. On the left side, you choose where the photos are coming from to import into your catalog. So I've currently chosen EOS Digital, which is the name of the card that I stuck into the machine, and that's now displaying these photos in a grid mode in the middle column, right? So on the left is from. In the middle, we're telling it, what do you want to do with that photo? You want to, copy it, you can move it, or you can just add it to your catalog, or you can copy it as a DNG. So a DNG is a digital negative format, which Adobe is trying to make a standard, and they're not succeeding. It is a uncompressed, high quality format, but not many people are using it yet. And so at this point, unless you have some special thing that you're doing with DNGs, I don't see a need to do that. So for this instance, I'm copying the pictures from my card that I took out on my camera, and I'm going to put them onto a hard drive with my computer. Okay, so I'm going to choose copy. Now, the way I do everything, I use a laptop for all my work, because I'm traveling, moving around a lot, so I have my catalog stored on my laptop. So the catalog itself is sitting in my laptop. I put all of my photos on an external 4 terabyte hard drive. So there are no photos at all on my computer because it has a very small hard drive, and I'd fill it up yesterday. It's full already, and I can't figure out what all the crap is in it already. If I had any photos in there, it would just be out of business. So I have about 2.5 terabytes of photos on this 4 terabyte hard drive, external hard drive. So there are, see right away, I'm telling you 2 different ways to do this, but I'm going to tell you how I do it. So a lot of people will stick their card out of their computer or out of their camera into their computer and copy the photos onto a hard drive and then import them into Lightroom. Well, Lightroom, since frankly I'm a lazy bastard and I'll do it whatever the best way is that gets me the highest quality, Lightroom will let me do that in one step. So I can import and copy the photos from my card that I took out of the camera and put them right on my external hard drive. So if I choose copy, it will copy them off of that card and put a copy onto an external hard drive or wherever I want them to go. In one click. If I can save a click, I'm a happy guy. If I wanted to move them off of that card onto this hard drive, I could do that. If I do that, it erases them off the hard drive. Now, when might you want to move? So if you do have photos already on your internal hard drive or an external hard drive, say you have 3 hard drives, and you want to move them from one to another and include them into your catalog, you would hit move, and it would actually move it from wherever it's sitting now, put it on the other one, and erase the existing one. Okay. Add, you are purely adding the photo to the catalog, and you're not moving it anywhere. You're not copying it, you're not moving it. So if it's already sitting on a hard drive and that's where you want it to stay, then you would just add that photo to your catalog. Okay, anybody not with me up to this point? So I forgot to tell you I have one rule when I teach classes. If I say something and you don't quite understand it, you're feeling a little bit fuzzy, I guarantee you somebody else, maybe 2, maybe 3 other people in the class is thinking the same thing. I don't quite get that, but I should be getting that. I must be stupid. I'm not going to say anything. Please don't think that, because if you're thinking that, there's other people in the class thinking the same thing. So when I say something and you're not quite clear, stop me, holler, say, Lauren, repeat that, and I'll come at it in a different direction. You're going to help yourself, you're going to help me, and you're going to help other people in the class. So don't think that you're going to hold somebody back or, you know, I don't want to slow down the class because sometimes I get going a little too fast. I know that. So please, if I'm not clear, let me know. So this is the perfect first opportunity to say, Lauren, I'm not quite clear on copy or move, because this is a very important thing. Okay, everybody's clear as mud. Good.
Lauren,
Yes.
quick question. When you copy, what format does it copy as? Does it keep it in RAW or does it transfer it to something?
It's whatever the original was.
Okay.
So let's talk about that for a second. So your camera shoots one of two formats, either a RAW, which is all the information possible captured, and it doesn't do anything to the image, or JPEG, which is a compressed file, which it is making a much smaller file, so it takes up less room on your card in your camera and on your computer. And when it does that, it is throwing some information away. So the quality is lower on a JPEG than on a RAW file. You can tell your camera to shoot both. So the advantage of the RAW file is it is the highest quality possible, and it is a pure digital file, and you can easily manipulate the colors, the color balance, everything that you can do in the develop module. It does perfectly to a RAW file. You can do most of those adjustments to a JPEG, but some things it just won't work as well on a JPEG as it does on a RAW file. So most photographers who are shooting for a highest quality shoot RAW. I only shoot RAW. The big problems with RAW is the files are huge. They're big. And you can't put a RAW file on a website. You can't post it on Flickr, or you can't send it to a friend and have them look at it unless they have software to open it and manipulate it. So if you're going to send a photo to somebody, you have to then make it a JPEG, which we'll talk about how to do that later. So whatever file format you shot it in, it's going to copy it. And if you're doing both, there's a checkbox in the preferences that says copy both of them and display them side by side. If you shoot both and you don't have that checkbox, it will import them, but it will only show you the RAW file in your grid here. Okay, good question.
So, Lauren, at the end of the day, what's the main difference between copy and add?
Copy will copy it from one place and make a copy on a second place. Add will only take an existing location and add it to the catalog.
So if you've already copied the photos to your hard drive, maybe you would just do an add.
Right. So if you've already if you already copied the photos off the card out of your camera onto your hard drive, then you would just add them to the catalog. Because remember, the catalog is not really showing you your original photos. It's showing you a preview that Adobe created when you import that bad name, import photos into it.
But if you're importing from your card, does it matter if you're doing copy or add?
Yes, you need to copy because it would still be on the card. And then when you took the card out of your computer, the original file is no longer available to Lightroom, and it's going to call you bad names.
So there's no pathway, you're saying?
Right, because it's not attached. And the same thing happens, and I'll show you this at some point. If I unplug my external hard drive that has all my originals on it, Lightroom's going to say, where'd all those photos go? And when I plug it back in, it says, oh, thank you.
So the information in the catalog is really just a pointer to wherever the real photo is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Lauren, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you keep your catalog on your external hard drive along with your photos, or do you keep the catalog separate from your photos?
I keep my catalog on my internal hard drive on my laptop. That way, if I don't have my external hard drive plugged in, I can still access the catalog. I can see the photos. I can see the previews. I can make changes to the text. I can rearrange things. I can organize. I can't print, and I can't do anything in the develop module to the images, but I have access to them. So go ahead.
Do you have a desktop also that you switch between?
No,
move back and forth, in other words?
no, I do everything off my laptop. I don't have a desktop.
Okay.
It is possible to share a catalog between two computers, though.
It is, because that's what I was after doing.
Yeah. So if I had that workflow, like I said, when I came back from Iceland, I had all my photos in my catalog. I uploaded them all and had a backup, very importantly, before I got on the plane. While I was on the plane, I was going through and deleting bad photos. I was doing keywording. I was doing lots of organizational things, for the 5 hours I was on the plane. And then when I plugged my hard drive back in, Lightroom knew about all that stuff. If I was working off of a desktop also, I would then transfer all that work I did from that catalog to the catalog I had on the desktop, and all those images would.
And so there's a way of incorporating one catalog into a different catalog.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll show you that later. Where I'm at right now, I can't get to that, but.
Fine.
So the catalog within Lightroom, the catalog is going through the desktop memory, going through the desktop is holding on to the catalog, right? I mean, is the desktop, I'm sorry, the laptop internal, does the catalog or Lightroom take up space within the laptop?
Yes, the catalog is a file, and it as you add more photos to it, it gets bigger.
But it's not.
But it's not nearly as big as the photo file. But it is taking up some space, but not. I mean, what did I have? 56,000 photos, and I don't know what it's at, 4 gigabytes for the whole catalog, which isn't much. I make photos that are that size, so relatively speaking, it's not a very big file. If it pulled all the photos into it and the originals were inside of Lightroom, it would be trillion gigabyte files, be a monster, which is one of the reasons they don't do that. Okay, any other questions up to this point? Okay, now I'm going to get to the most confusing part of the night. Where do they go when you copy them? So we know we're starting on the left and we're going from the card that came out of the camera. We're going to copy them to what? So on the right, we say where we're going to copy it to. Okay, so since the last time I copied photos, I copied it to my external hard drive, which is named Lauren Photos T4. It remembered that. So if I click there and I wanted to have another destination, it would show me. It will quickly show me as the beach ball bounces. It will quickly show me. I can choose any place I want to store those photos. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit more in a minute about that, but first, when it is importing them, it will do some file handling, and it will build previews in different ways. There's standard, there's minimal, there's embedded, sidecar, and there's one-to-one. One-to-one makes the preview the size of the original file. Now, what we just talked about is we don't want to make our catalog huge, so if you go one-to-one, you're going to have big files, big catalog files. Don't do that. Embedded and sidecar will show you all of that. Minimal makes a very small one. You probably don't want to do that. So standard is, unless you know of a good reason not to, the way to go there. We're talking about the previews. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So then it will also build smart previews. Smart previews will let you edit will let you do tonal edits to it and print to a picture. You can do smart previews as you import, or you can make smart previews later. So you don't have to have your external hard drive plugged in to do editing to your photos. But again, this will balloon the size of your catalog very quickly. So I don't do smart previews until I know that I want to do something to that photo when I don't have my external hard drive plugged in. So smart previews are fancy ways of making big files.
This is the newest version.
Yes, I'm using the newest version of Adobe CC Classic.
Okay.
We didn't talk about that yet.
That's okay. Just some of the stuff.
We will.
Okay.
Is anybody using just the online Adobe CC? Okay, good. I should have asked everybody. What is anybody using version 5? Version 6? You have version 6?
Oh, nice.
If you're not paying a subscription, a monthly subscription, you're probably using version 6.
Oh, right.
The bad thing about the good thing about version 6 is you never have to pay them any more money. The bad thing is they stopped supporting it December 31st. So at some point you have to pay them more money. And at that point you have to go to their subscription model, which is they have a package for $10 a month, $9.95, which gets you Lightroom and Photoshop.
That's CC.
That's called Adobe Lightroom Classic CC. There is also Adobe Lightroom CC, which is a pure cloud-based, not purely cloud-based, a cloud-based version of Lightroom. The cloud-based version, they give you a terabyte of space in the cloud, and all your photos are stored in the cloud. You don't store anything locally, although you can if you want, but the purpose is to store them in the cloud. The interface is totally different, and it doesn't look like this at all.
And the cloud fills up pretty quick.
A terabyte. Well, you know, a terabyte. If you know, that's a lot of photos. You know, I've got what 56,000, and I'm shooting very large raw files. I have a 52 megabyte camera, so you know, I have about 56,000, and I'm just a little over 2 terabytes on here. So you know, you'd probably be close to 30,000 photos raw to get to a terabyte. If you're shooting JPEG, you're 4 or 5 times that. So that's a lot of photos. You know, you could be at a couple 100,000 if you're shooting raw. So
Lightroom to the cloud is called what?
Lightroom CC. And this one is Lightroom CC Classic. Why they bothered to confuse everybody with that, I don't know, but they just came out with this last fall.
Excuse
So
me,
you know
Mark.
the one that looks like this. Okay.
Yeah. I might have missed something. What was the reason for using on the build previews standard instead of minimal?
Standard is the one to use. Minimal gives you very small previews, and if you try to go like full screen with it, it'll be pixelated. So like if I want to see this photo great big, I can tap on the well, not right now while I'm in the import mode.
Right.
I can see that full screen. If it's a minimal picture, it'll be have the jaggies and look really bad.
Okay.
I think the previous one you had.
And when you're editing, you want it to look good while you're editing. So okay, so during the import, you have a checkbox that says don't import suspected duplicates. So Lightroom will look at your photo and look at the file name and the date it was shot and say, do I have a file name and a picture shot that exact time down to the second already? If it does, it won't import it if you check that. It will also make a second copy of your picture to another hard drive. So if you want to immediately create a backup, you can do that. So when I'm copying into one hard drive, I can plug in another hard drive and have it make a second copy to that hard drive, which is a fast way to back up. I don't do that. The reason being, I shoot a lot of pictures and I throw a lot of pictures away. So I go through the first thing, we'll talk about that in a moment. First thing I do is I go through all my pictures and delete all my bad stuff, reject all my bad stuff. And then I delete it from my hard drive and from the catalog. If I were to make a copy right away of all my files, I would be copying all of my bad stuff to that second hard drive. So at the end of the day, I back up my external hard drive to another hard drive, and I'm backing up only the pictures that I want. The ones that I've thrown away are gone already. So I'm not making my backup hard drive. I'm not making my backup hard drive full of junk photos, which will fill it up too fast for me, because I probably throw away 60 to 70% of what I shoot. So that would fill that up. So you can do that. There are times I do that, like when I'm on a trip, I will make a, in Iceland every night I downloaded my photos to the hard drive that I store them on. I had a backup hard drive, a 2 terabyte drive that I made just backup copies, and then I made sure I kept my card. I didn't erase any cards until I got home, and made sure I had a 3rd copy. I always want to have 3 copies of all my photos. There's a long, sad story of why I learned that lesson. But I have a house in Vermont, and so I keep 2 copies on hard drives here, and then I have another hard drive, 4 terabyte hard drive in Vermont, that every time I go there, I back up my whole everything to that one. So I figure if New Jersey blows up, I have a copy in Vermont. I figure my logic is if New Jersey and Vermont blow up, I probably at that point don't really care about my photos anymore. It's all over.
You have a fire.
I do store my favorite bests. I do put them up on in a Dropbox and on a Google Drive. So I have a couple copies of my very, very best in the cloud. So I don't just if I need that, the world's done. So you can also add to a collection as you import. We're going to talk tonight about collections. So remember that, even though you don't know what it is yet. You can rename the file as you import it. You can add a custom name. You can create a preset. So one of the powerful things of Lightroom is the ability to create presets to do something multiple times. So if you always are doing one thing and you do it, next time you see if you import your photos, you're going to do something, create a preset so you don't have to do the same thing over and over. So one of the things you can do is if you rename your files, say, I want all my files to start with Lauren, I can rename them right here, and it'll change the file name as I import them. And it will, if I let me zoom in here so you can see, if I want to give it a sequence, it'll call it Lauren photo 001, 002, however I want to do it. Lots of different, it'll keep the original file number if I want to. Lots of different options there to change your file numbers. And so if you want to edit any presets, you just click on edit, and it will, let me zoom back out, give you all these options to make changes. So you can just add, I'm gonna have to zoom out to do this. If I want to call it image number 0001, I can insert that, and that went in there and became part of the file name. I don't bother to rename my files as I import. Some people like to, if you want to have your name on there. So you can also change the extension. That'd be the .jpeg or .raw or whatever. If you're Nikon, it's NEF. You can make it uppercase, lowercase. I don't know why you do that, but there are people who like to. And you can apply develop settings while you import. If you have a preset that I love the look of black and white look one, you can apply that as you import. Now, since we're not working on our originals, if we do that when we import, we know we can always go back and change it and not ruin anything. So you can't hurt it if you do that.
I have a question about
yes.
that. So when you're importing and you put preset on, that's only affecting the catalog, basically, that little file you're talking about. It's not affecting the picture on the hard drive.
Exactly. You are never affecting the picture on the hard drive in Lightroom. You can't. It doesn't do that.
Okay.
Which is the beauty of it.
So it imports it as is and then puts it on the catalog.
Right. Right. So you'll see changes to the pictures in your catalog, but again, it's just changing that preview. And then when you either print it or export it, it goes to that sidecar file and says, oh, here's what Lauren wanted to do that file. As you export it, do it to it. And the new file that you create when you export applies all those changes that you made.
So if you wanted to say you did that preset, then you had say you did 100 photos that way, and then you said, oh, I want this one photo different, or I want to see it in two different, filters or whatever.
Yep.
Could you possibly add that to the catalog as a second photo, a second?
Yes, I will talk about that later. It's called a virtual copy, but
Right.
and I will talk about that later.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody do video? Good. Don't have to talk about video, but you could, Lightroom will catalog video. You can't edit it in it, but you can apply some presets to it. Okay. Apply during import. So we have developed settings we can apply. We can also apply metadata. So metadata is technically data about data. And so your camera records a lot of metadata about every picture you take. It records what time you shot it, the day, the hour, the minute, the second. It records what camera you used. It records what lens you used, the ISO, the shutter speed, the aperture, what else? Lots of stuff. So you may want to add more things to it, especially if you're putting your pictures on the internet. You may want to add your copyright information. You may want to add your website. You may want to add lots of different things. So you can do that as you import. And so since I'm a lazy bastard, I set up presets ahead of time, knowing that, so like from Iceland, here are some keywords that I'm going to put on every photo that I shot in Iceland. Keywords are one of the powerful ways to find your photos, and every photo needs to have keywords or you can't find it. So when I import, I add keywords to every photo. And if it's like a day's shoot like this was, that so I can scroll down. So this is from Iceland. And you can see I shot a mountain, I shot a waterfalls, I shot the ocean, storm, all kinds of different things. So during that import, I'm going to put on it keywords that describe, in general, every photo, but not specific photos. So this would not get very many keywords. I would have Iceland. Since it was part of a photo workshop, I add photo workshop to my keywords because I like to search for that sometimes.
So it's going to be repetitive.
So it's going to be on every photo that you see.
But I mean, you have it on metadata, and you're going to put it on keywords.
Well, if you do the metadata, if you create a preset there, it adds those automatically for you. Okay. So you can see I have a preset for New Jersey photos, for Vermont, client photos. I shoot water drops, so I have keywords for water drops. So anything that I shoot repetitive, I tend to start with location based, and then get more specific. So if I had only shot the sea stack in the ocean, here I would also add manually sea stacks, ocean, sea stack, ocean, water, waves, any keywords I can think of that I would ever search for in the future. So I would add them at that point. Later, I'm going to add a lot more keywords to the individual photos. But right now I want to get some, I always want to put some right away, because if I happen to import and I get busy and forget to add more keywords later and then import more photos, I can at least always find my photos from Iceland or my photos from New Jersey or my photos from Vermont, whatever.
And again, this is all stored within the catalog. You're not actually attaching this to the image.
The question is, this is only going on the catalog, not on the image. Yes, keywords are only in the catalog. Keywords do not go with the image.
Okay.
Some metadata that you can add later will be attached to the file itself. Okay, so there's some words there. So now here's the tricky part: destination. Where are you going to put them? So some people get awful worried about where their photos are stored. As long as Lightroom knows where the photo is, you don't need to. And it's probably better. So when I first started using Lightroom, I sorted them by date. And so every time I shot something, so you can see 98, 2000, 2004. Then in about 2013, you can see I decided, wait a minute, that's not the way to do it. Because I would have to try to remember, when did I shoot that picture? And my memory, it just doesn't work that good. So, so then I went to, let's do it by subject. And so you can see I have lots of different subjects here. And I still kind of do it by subject and create a folder for, as you can see, this was my first time to Iceland, so I created a folder for Iceland to store my Iceland photos. If I was starting completely over, I wouldn't even bother with any of this. I would just drop everything into one big folder and not even mess with it, because it is very rare, if ever, that I go looking through my hard drive and try to figure out what photos I have. That's why I have Lightroom. It's a catalog based, it's a database. You know, it's built to help me find things fast. And if I'm scrolling through individual files on a hard drive, that's the worst way to ever do anything. So I can't quite break my old habit of still wanting to have a subject-based filing system, because I had file cabinets full of subject-based slides for years, and that's what I'm used to. The problem is, if I shoot like the ocean and Vermont, well, obviously not the ocean in Vermont, the ocean in Iceland, do I file it under ocean or Iceland? You know, so that's the problem with subject-based. When you have multiple subjects in your photo, which one do you file it under? So you don't need to worry about that. Let Lightroom do the work.
Again, this is destination.
This is destination. So these are the actual folders sitting on my Lauren Photos T4 hard drive. These are this is actual what's sitting on folders. If I open up my hard drive, let me do that.
So, I mean, destination, you're importing them from the card.
So,
but then the destination upon export?
No, that's why I said this is the most confusing part. So when you're copying the photo, right, you are moving it from something to another place. Oh, right. So you need to tell it where you're moving it to, because you not, you know, in my case, I want to make sure I'm not moving that photo to my internal drive. I want it to go to an external hard drive, and only one external. If I happen to have two external hard drives, I need to make sure it goes on my Lauren Photos T4, where all of my photos are stored. Okay, I don't want it going on some other hard drive, because then I'd have to make sure I have it plugged in. But even if I did that, Lightroom would know where the photo was, and so it's not lost. You know, a lot of people fear that I've lost my photos. I can't find them on my hard drive. As long as Lightroom knows where they are, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, because Lightroom's smarter than we are. At least.
So how do you search by your photos? Just by keywords?
Yes, I'll show you. I'll show you momentarily some ways. There's multiple ways, and I do use multiple ways of doing it. Okay, so since this is a test catalog, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this, and I'm going to open up my real catalog and go back to that. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me do that import again. Okay, so I'm going to click import. So I've selected my source as EOS Digital, and you're going to see now some of these photos are going to start graying out because I have selected don't import suspected duplicates. So there's going to be some that I've thrown away that aren't going to gray out, so we'll import those. Okay, so you can see if they've been grayed, they've been imported already. And these ones in the middle here that are popping up, those are ones that I trashed before because they're bad. So I can uncheck all, and if I just want to import, there's a little screen thing there. If I want to just import these 7 photos, I can click on the first one, hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, click on the last one, and it'll select them. Then when I click the checkbox, it now will select those, and it's going to tell me at the bottom here. Let me move this for my local folks. Oh, over here in the lower left corner. And then it's going to tell me I'm importing 7 photos, and they take up 358 megabytes. So it's always going to tell you how many photos you're importing. Okay, so we're going to copy them to Lauren Photos T4. I'm going to put some keywords on this. So I've got ocean, if I spell it right. Now you also notice, since I'm using my existing catalog, as I start typing keywords, it knows which ones I've used already. And so rather than me typing ocean with 3 E's, I can just click on that and it will automatically use a keyword I had before. And I want to separate them with commas. So ocean, water, storm, S-T-O-R-M is storm. What else do we have here? Atlantic. I haven't used Atlantic before, that's surprising. Not NYC. Okay, that's good for now. So, so if I want to put them in my Iceland folder, I click on it. Now, if I wanted to create a folder inside of that Iceland folder, back up above, right at the beginning, I can click into subfolder and then give it a name, bad photos, since I know these are bad photos. So I'm going to have a subfolder inside of my Iceland folder called bad photos. And as I scroll down, now I have an italicized thing that says bad photos. So I know that folder is the one that I'm creating as I import. Okay, so then all I have to do is click import, and my progress bar up here in the upper left corner will start importing those photos, and you can see the progress as they go. So there's 2 operations in progress. It's importing and it's building the previews. That's what those 2 operations are. If you really want to see what's going on, you can click on that and it's telling you what's going on in those operations. But that's pretty geeky. Okay, so now we have 7 photos, and you can see here on the left side, it says previous import, there are 7 photos. Okay, so now I have 56,269. Before I had 56,262. I don't remember that. I'm just quickly, my math mind can deduct that. So as I have these photos, now it's time for me to go. What I do next is I get rid of my bad photos. I go through them very quickly, and the ones that I know are no good, I'm getting rid of. I used to have 6 or 7 file cabinets full of slides, and
You go through them here.
I go through them right now. After I
import.
After I import them. I don't do it while I'm importing, and I'll show you why in a second.
Before. Oh.
So I can see which ones I've just imported, so I can go through them real quickly. The reason I get rid of bad ones is I had those slides sitting in the dark, and I thought maybe if they sat in the dark for a couple of years, they'd get better. Something would grow, and the pictures would get better. It didn't work, and I ended up throwing away hundreds of slides, thousands and thousands of slides a few years ago. And the same thing with digital. The longer they sit in the computer, they do not get any better. So I'm throwing them away right now. So right now we're in what's called the grid mode in the middle. Actually, they call it loop, I think. What do they call it? No, it's not loop. They call it
grid.
Yeah, they do call it grid. So my little brain only remembers about 9 keyboard shortcuts for any program I'm using. One of them that is great, that I love, and I've put my favorite ones on the last page of the handout that I gave you. If you just tap the G on your keyboard, it'll take you to the grid mode. If you want to see an individual photo, if you click on it and tap E, I don't know what the hell E stands for, exceptional. E will take you to the loop view, which they call the single one. So now if I just tap G, I go back to the grid mode. E, I go to loop mode. Those two are great keyboard shortcuts to remember. E for exceptional photo. I don't know what E stands for. But G goes for grid. So E and G are, and they're on, like I say, they're on the very last page of that.
Did you send me a handout?
I hopefully did. Did you not get it?
If I did, I didn't see it. Let's put it down.
I sent it about, what time was that today?
Oh, today I didn't look at my computer today.
Okay, yeah, either 2 or 4 o'clock. I don't remember.
Okay,
Which.
I would have not seen it.
Okay, this afternoon I sent out
That's fine.
a couple of different handouts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
He's not on it.
E's not on my list.
We can add it.
Oh, add E to the list.
There's a space for it.
Oh, what a dope! I thought I had that on there.
Hey, Lauren,
Yes.
if you do the E, which like expands it, then if you
Yeah.
double click it, then doesn't it go to the loop mode?
Yes. So you can do the same thing by you can double click on the picture and it goes to the expanded view. I like that. Maybe that's what E stands for. Or double click again and it goes back to grid.
Okay.
Enlarge, expand. Yeah, one of those. And also you can change the size of your thumbnails in your grid mode. So there's the scroll bar. I'm trying to zoom in on it. Down in the lower right corner it says thumbnails. And if you just slide that back and forth, that'll give you more or fewer, so you can see them big or small. Now you'll notice here in the library mode, there are some, let me turn everything on down here.
Hey,
There are some tools on the bottom. So these will help you rate them. You can do a star rating. I started out trying to do that, and I would make some 1 star, I'd make some 2 star, some 3 star, some 4 star, some 5 star, and then about a day later I forgot what the hell a 3 star meant and what a 4 star was. Is 1 star better than 5 stars? 5 star hotel is better than 1 star, but I want to be number 1 in the world. I don't want to be number 5 in the race. So I said, hell with that. So then I went to colors. So then I decided if I click on a photo and click on yellow, then yellow is something. And I had Post-it notes on my wall saying blue means this, yellow means this. And it's like, forget that. So and I've seen people who have 5-star blue and 3-star yellow and 5-star blue and 3-star blue and 1 star and so I figured out it really comes down to 1 to 2 or 3 things, and so I simplified it to 3 things. It's either bad, and so I reject it, which means just tap the X key on your keyboard, and that rejects it. It's great. You tap the P key, and that makes it a pick and gives it a white flag. The X gives it a black flag. Or it's pretty good. I'm going to leave it alone. So I go to the individual mode, and I will go through the pictures pretty much as fast. And on my keyboard, I use the arrows down in the lower right corner, and that's where they are on a Windows machine too. And I will say, okay, that one's not bad. I'm not going to give it anything. That one's boring, X. And you can see when I hit X, it says set as rejected. It puts a black flag on it, and it grays out the picture in the film strip down the bottom. Next photo. That's pretty good. P for pick. Boring, X. No good, X. No good, X. No good, X. Okay, so now when I go back to grid mode, I can see that 2 of them are going to survive. One of them is a pick. One of them is just a maybe. Okay. When I'm done with if I've imported 500 photos, it's going to take me a little bit longer. But I do this immediately because you can see how many right now I've rejected. And then to actually delete them, you go up under the photo menu, come all the way down to the bottom to delete rejected photos. And it will ask you, do you want to delete them from the catalog or delete them from the catalog and the disk?
So the black flag
has been rejected. Yeah, so the black flag is rejected. I want to delete them from the disk. I don't want to just remove them from the catalog because nothing would be worse than having a whole bunch of bad photos sitting on my hard drive that aren't in Lightroom, and I would never know what the hell they were, and I would never get rid of them and just fill a hard drive full of bad photos. So I immediately go through and delete them from disk. Click. delete from disk. Now I have 2 photos left.
That's under the photo menu.
That's under photo, yes. There is a keyboard shortcut for that. If you double click, you go to expanded view. Okay. Yeah, Windows would be a little bit different with that. So, yeah. So, so now if I go back to grid view, at this point I go in and add more keywords. So so I have a person in here and I know who it is. So I would put his name, and you can see Raymond Hoffman already pops up because I've already had photos of him. Photographer.
Pretty amazing.
Whatever. Red coat. I might need to find a picture of people's red coats someday. So I go through now. If so, these happen to be the same person. So I can if I had multiple pictures. Actually, let me undo my delete. Can I go back that far? So I have more photos to work with. Okay. So if I just did Command X, or I mean Command Z several times to undo, is what I just did. And so if I decided, well, maybe I threw those away too soon, I can always go back and either click on the black flag itself to undelete them. Okay, something else. So you'll notice on these photos they have a exclamation mark up here in the corner. So it's saying that the photo is missing. So anytime you have that, that means Lightroom doesn't know where that photo was. So why is this photo missing? Because when I did the deletion, I said delete it from the disk and the catalog. So I can undo going back to the catalog and get the pictures back in the catalog, but they're off the disk, they're gone. So if I wanted them back on that hard drive, I'd have to copy them off of my card that I took out of the computer originally. So that's why I'm getting that signed.
Darren?
Yes.
I have a question. Say you have your 3 or 4 pictures are deleted, 3 or 4 pictures you still want. Say you didn't want to delete them. Say you didn't delete them yet, but you wanted just to see the ones you didn't delete. In other words, the ones you did not mark for were reject. You rejected them, but you didn't delete them yet. You didn't hit the delete button.
Okay.
So you wanted to view just the pictures that you didn't. You say, okay, I don't want to reject these. These are guys I still have that I didn't reject.
So you want to see the ones that you did not reject?
Yes. And you didn't delete them, and you didn't go through the delete process.
Let me flag a few, and so anytime that you're in the library mode, you can sort your pictures by lots of different things. Capture time, the order added. So this is down here on the bottom. The time you edited, the rating, the pick. So if you just wanted to see the ones that you had for pick, you could sort by pick, and that will be on top. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly what I just was doing something like that yesterday. I didn't know how to do what you just did.
Yes, I use that a ton. I use that a ton. I sort by pick. I sort by capture time. I sort by added order a lot. But remember, right now we're just working on the 7 photos in our previous import. We're not looking at all of my photos yet. But I'll show you how to do that. So say we wanted to add keywords to 3 photos, and since they're all pretty similar, we'd add the same keywords to them. I can click on the first one, hold down my shift key, click on the last one, select that, and now when I add keywords, the same keywords show up in all 3 pictures if I click on them individually. So you see the same as what I typed in. So those photos, so I can add keywords to multiple photos. If they're not in the order that I want, I can click on one, hold down the Command key on the Mac, Control key on Windows, and click on the second one, click on whichever ones I want to select, and select them individually instead of as a series. Okay, so I can make changes, or I can flag them that way too. So I can make them all fixed, and suddenly all 4 of those become white flags. Okay. So that's my workflow immediately. When I try to do that every time right away, so I can find my photos. Now, at some point, you are going to import a couple of hundred photos, and you're going to work on them for a while, and then you're going to want to look at some older photos that you had, and you're gonna close your catalog. You're coming back the next day, and you only see yesterday's photos. You don't see all of them, and you're gonna panic. I guarantee it. They're not gone. The problem is you're only looking at your previous import. You have to click up on all photographs to see all of your photographs. So you might not remember how to soon, but when that panic strikes in that, oh my God, all my photos are gone except for yesterday's, remember I said there's a way. They're there. Just don't worry about it. They're there. So you can see now when I click on all photographs, it's telling me down here on the bottom that I am looking at 56,233 of 56,269. Why do I not have them all selected? All viewed, I don't know. Let's see someplace I have a sort going out. And I'm sorting by pick. So these are images from Iceland. Well, so it's chronological at this point. So these are the last photos that I made. So it's going to show me the pics in chronological order as I scroll down. And again, I can change the size of my thumbnails if I want to see more. And also the panes on the side, if I want to close them, if I want to close them all at once, if I hit the tab key, it closes both of them. Hit the tab key again and it opens them, or I can close them one at a time by clicking on the little toggles. See the little toggle right there? If I click on that, it will close just that pane, and so I have more space on my desktop. And if I hit the tab, that will come back. Or I can click on that tab again and make it come back. Okay, so if you're feeling cramped on your desktop, sometimes it's better just to close your panes on the side and then make your pictures a little bit bigger. Anybody want to see me? So another great keyboard shortcut is if you tap the F key, it will take the picture to full screen. So there's Lauren in the middle of the crick out in the middle of nowhere.
What key shortcut did you hit for that?
That is F.
No,
The F key is the shortcut, and then tap the F again, and you go back to the normal mode. I didn't shoot that picture. That's why it's a picture of me. Yes, Raymond. This is the guy who shot that. This is me photographing him while he's photographing me. So he was our guide in Iceland. So anyway, so at this point, I've imported photos and I've deleted the bad ones, and now I can sort them and then let's talk about what's going on over here on the left panel. So in the upper left, you have what's called the navigator. So the navigator shows you whatever picture you have selected, either as an individual or in the grid, and you can enlarge, you can zoom in. Enlarge is the wrong word. Zoom in by clicking on fill, which will fill the window with the picture. You can move it around. Oops, I double click. You can move it around. Click the 1-on-1, so that gives you a 100% view. As you move the box around, you see it's slowly loading and pixelated until it's loaded. That computer's crying right now. So if you want to really zoom in 1-to-1, and you can even go higher. You have a full list of sizes. So if you want to zoom in, you can do that. The navigator stays in in all of the different modes, the library mode or develop mode. So usually I want to be fit. Underneath that is the catalog. So all photos it's showing you, there's 56,000, however many photos you have. It'll show you how many are synced. We'll talk about synced in a moment. And we're going to talk about collections, how many quick collections you have, the previous catalog, and what's already in the catalog. These were ones that were imported from another catalog. So that happens very often. So underneath that is folders, and folders are the actual folders on your computer. So this is the only place where you can really trash up your computer. Everything else is not. So this is your actual desktop, either Windows or Macintosh. And so once you import a photo, you never want to move it on the desktop if you already have it in Lightroom. Lightroom will then say, just like this, we don't know where that is. You know, photo is missing. So if you've done that, so if you need to move photos around on your computer, you have to do it within folders. So you can see in this folder called Downloads, I have 12 photos. They're not that are not in the catalog. So if I wanted to move them from that Downloads folders to the Documents folders, I need to do it right here. I can just drag and drop, so I can put that one in Documents rather than, and okay, that's a missing file, so that's a bad one. Okay, so if I want to put this photo, I was looking for those, wondered where those were. So, you know, right now those are sitting on my internal hard drive. I'd rather have them on my external Lauren Photos T4. So I can just click on them, select the two of them, drag them to Lauren Photos T4, and it says you're going to move them. Going to move them. Are you sure you really want to move them? Because when it moves them, it erases it from where they were. Yes, I want to move them. So, and you're sure why? Why? Tell me there's an error. I don't know. I'll worry about that later. So this is from my workshop out in Oregon for the Eclipse. So if I need to move photos around for some reason, if I want to move them off of my internal drive to an external drive, or from one external drive to another, I need to do that through the folders area within Lightroom. If you do it up in your desktop, Lightroom is going to be grumpy. Okay. So I keep that one closed because I can mess things up there. Below that are collections. Collections are a very powerful way to organize your photos, and you can create collections and then add photos to them based on anything you want. I do a lot of art shows selling my photos, so I have a collection for 5x7 size prints, so you can see there's 61 photos in that. Maybe you can't see that. 8x12 prints, so different print sizes, metal prints, cows and snow. So all the different workshops I have collections for samples to use in workshops. I have collections of photos from January. There's collections from Italy, all kinds of things. So I use collections, and you can see I have quite a few, but I don't have hundreds, because if I had hundreds of collections, I have trouble figuring out I couldn't figure out my collections. There'd be too many. So I kind of keep that tight, and you see how many are in each one. And so if I want to add a photo to a collection, let me go back to Lightroom Workshop grid here. So say I want to have this photo in my Lightroom test collection. I just drag it, drop it into Lightroom test, and now you can see there's 11 photos in there. And also on the photo itself, in the grid mode, let me zoom in a little bit here. If I click on this icon, it will tell me what collections that photo is in. So as you can see, you can have photos in multiple collections. You can have photos in as many collections as you want. So if I want to see my favorite 91 macro photos, I can just click on macro collection, and there are my favorite 91 macro photos. So when I go on a trip, I make a collection of my favorite photos from that trip. And so there's Italy, there's 77 photos, my favorite photos from my Italy trip. Or if I, my favorite black and white photos or my favorite barn photos. So it makes it very fast to find a set of photos based on whatever you want to base it on. It's totally up to you.
Lauren?
Yes, go ahead.
If you moved, like, let's say one of your barn photos into macro, so it would disappear from the barn catalog?
No, it will stay in the barn collection.
Collection, rather.
Yes. You can have it in multiple collections.
It'll be
And
in both at the same time, basically?
yes.
Okay.
Because remember, it's just a database. It's not really working on the original files. It's working on just a little thumbnail. So it's using the same thumbnail or the same preview photo.
Right.
But it's just showing you in different places. So it's essentially not real. And if you take a photo, to take a photo out of a collection, where was one of the working on Lightroom test? If I don't want this photo of the eclipse and that dog, I don't want that in the collection anymore. I just click on it and I hit the delete key on my keyboard and it deletes it from the collection, but it does not delete it from the catalog, only from the collection. Only from that collection. If it was in multiple collections, it wouldn't delete it from the other collections either, only that collection. So that photo is still wherever it was in the catalog itself. But I just don't have it in that collection anymore.
So do you add these things to collections as you're importing them, or is this something you do after you've looked at it and you decide where it wants to go?
It's after I look at it and decide where I want it to go. Yes.
Okay.
And how do you create a collection?
Good question. I'm heading there next. So at the top of collections, there's that plus sign. So you click on that and you come down to the create collection and you name it. So Lightroom test. I know I've done it before, so I'm going to give it a unique name. You can create collection sets also. So you can have a collection inside of a collection. So you notice in my art show, I have collections inside of that art show collection. So if I wanted to have this, you can see what collection sets. So first you have to create a collection set before you can put a collection inside of it, but it's the egg and the chicken there. And that would,
So how do you create a collection set?
so so you can have a parent of a collection set is a parent.
Right.
And then, but the collection does not have to be inside of a collection set.
Sure.
It can be just sitting on it. Let me cancel here. So these big file drawers looking things are collection sets. So you can see I have 5 of them there. Then I have a lot of collections that are not inside of any collection set. Okay. So inside of workshop technicals are different workshops I do. So photos for those collections.
So once you create a collection, you're just creating a subfolder within a collection if you want to do it.
You can. You don't have to though. You can just have a folder that's by itself and not within side of another collection.
No, but I mean if you're doing a collection within a collection thing.
Yes, exactly. So when I'm creating that collection, I create it if I don't want it inside of another one. If I want to include photos that have already been selected, I click that. And then there's, I'll come back to target collection in a minute. And then there's sync with Lightroom CC. So if you're on the subscription model of Lightroom Classic CC, you also get Lightroom CC, which is the cloud version, but it's also the mobile version. So on your phone or your iPad, whatever, you can download for free Lightroom CC, and if you're and you can synchronize between your main Lightroom catalog and your phone, your Lightroom CC. So the way you do that is through collections. You can't synchronize all your photos. You have to synchronize a collection to be able to be seen in CC or in the mobile version of Lightroom. So if you sync with Lightroom CC, it will within 30 seconds show up on your phone. It's just absolutely amazing that works that fast. So you can do that. A target collection is.
Is there a limited number of collections you can synchronize with?
I don't think there's a limit to it, no.
Okay.
No. I mean, there is a way to create a collection and have all your photos in your catalog in that collection. So you could synchronize your entire catalog to your
56,000.
But that would be cumbersome.
Right.
Let's put it that way. So a target collection is a way to make a shortcut. If it's selected as a target collection, let's go ahead and create this collection. You can see beside it, it has a plus sign. Now, as I'm going through, say, all of my photos and I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to have in that collection, if I select the photo and tap the B key on my keyboard, it will add it to that target collection. So whichever collection, what do we call it? I forgot what we called this one. Lightroom test, where'd it go?
Guard test 44444.
Where the hell did it go? Oh, collection. No, I forgot the name. I unnamed it when I created the new one, so I just called it collection. So you can see now I have 2 photos in that collection because all you do is tap the B. So you can very quickly add photos to a collection by just running through them and tap B on to that one collection. You can only have one collection as a target collection. So B. Yep. Don't know what that stands for, but.
And the collection has to be highlighted?
The collection has to be set as a target collection. So if you want to change it from that collection to Barnes, you can right-click on it, set as target collection, and now Barnes has the plus sign. And if I tap this, click that photo, tap B, go to my Barnes collection, you'll see that's in the Barnes collection now, even though it's not a picture of a barn. So if it's not a picture of a barn, I don't want it there, I click on it, hit my delete key, it's gone from the Barnes collection, but it's still back in that other collection where I had it before. Okay, so then there are smart collections. Smart collections, create smart collection, will automatically add photos to that collection based on whatever criteria you tell it. So it could be a rating, it could be a file name, it could be the color that you called it, it could be what else? The camera. So you could have all the pictures you ever shot with your 100mm macro. It can be almost it's anything that you can imagine because this is a database program and it makes it real easy to do any searchable. So it could be date. So you'll see the ones that are target. Let me cancel that. The ones that are target collections have this thing on. What is that? A gear looking thing. Those are target collections. So you can see I have ones that I've labeled yellow, have 243 pictures that are labeled yellow. Now I just told you I don't label them. Smart collections. Did I say target? I'm sorry. Smart collections. I'm sorry. Labeled yellow. I'll tell you later why I do that. So here are photos from January of 2018.
Cool.
654, my favorite 654 photos from January. My collection, my smart collection of frogs. So say you have 2 grandkids and one of them's your favorite. And so you want to create a collection of your favorite grandchild and the other one's a brat, so you don't like him. So you can create a target collection, or I'm sorry, a smart collection that automatically puts all the pictures of Adam into that collection because you added Adam to the keywords. So every time that you photo Adam in and keyword it, it will automatically end up in that smart collection. You can have a collection of, so this one is called France Pics. So these are all the pictures that I shot in France that I've designated as a pick with the white flag. So it'll automatically throw all the photos. Anytime I shoot a new photo in France and designate it with a white flag, we will put it in that collection automatically for me. I have one of a smart collection of 100 millimeter lens. So these are all the photos I've ever shot with a 100 millimeter lens. So
I had
all
a
the photos,
question for
yes.
Lauren. How are you getting those effects with the drops? Is that what that was?
It is another class. I have a machine that times the drops and then fires my flash. So these are shot using small handheld strobes to freeze the action. So it's literally water drops or milk drops landing in other liquid and splashing up, and then the second drop hitting them and making the collisions that look so cool. And then I use gels on the flash.
Wow.
Yeah, they're fun.
Pretty neat.
So you can see I have a collection of fall foliage, my favorite 214 fall foliage pictures. So collections can be, that's a smart collection. So any keyworded picture that says fall foliage is automatically going to be added to this collection if it's been selected as a pick.
I think you already none of this can work.
Yes, these photos have all been worked on as far as development because they're old. Yeah.
Exceptional.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But no. Yes, all of these have had development done to them already. Yes.
So, Lauren, if you have the keywords associated with the collection, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is that going, let's say it just says fall, and the collection is called fall foliage, it's not going to go in there, right?
So it depends. So I can edit my smart collection, and it's based on whatever searchable. So this one I have two things that it's looking for. It's looking for the flag pick, and then it's any searchable text that says foliage in it.
Okay.
So if I have foliage in my keywords and it is flagged with the white flag, the pick flag, it's going to automatically go to the smart collection.
Right.
Did that answer the question?
Yep.
Kind of. So I have a smart collection of family photos. Anything that's slugged, anything that's keyworded family. Doesn't matter if it's a pick or not. It goes there. Yeah. So collections are extremely powerful ways to organize your photos, and so also you can see to the left the ones that have a little lightning bolt, double lightning bolt. Those are ones that are synchronized to Lightroom CC, so I can pull those up on my laptop or my iPad or my phone. So that's how you tell which ones are synchronized. And if you then have another one you want to synchronize, you can just right click and you sync with Lightroom CC, and it'll become a synchronized folder. And within a couple of minutes, you'll see it on your phone.
So you can import from your phone if you have the app?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It will show up as a collection from Lightroom CC. Okay. Any questions? Other questions on collections? Anybody fuzzy on collections? Damn, I'm good. Okay,
Clear
good.
as mud.
Good. That's what we like to hear. I'm going to come back to this later, so we're going to skip to the bottom of that. So let's go to the middle pane in our library. I'm going to scroll down. Let me go back up to my Lightroom test, my Lightroom class. Oops, wrong one. Lightroom workshop folder. There we go. So across the top, we can filter. We can do searches and filters also. So the fast way to find a photo if you don't have it in a collection, you don't want to worry about collection, is do a Command F on Mac or Control F on Windows, just like doing a find in Microsoft Word or something like that, and you'll get a search box up here. And so let's search Guatemala. Actually, let me go to all photos. So within that collection, there are 2 photos that have Guatemala in the keywords. If I go to all photos and do that find again, now you need the. Okay, it's getting chilly here. Let me know. So now you can see that when I do a search for Guatemala in all photos, down on the bottom, it's telling me I have 1,963 photos out of 56,000 that match that search criteria.
So Control F will bring up that search.
Exactly.
Sure.
And the default is it's a text search.
Right.
You can come down and you can do searches by anything, any searchable metadata. So, if you want to search 100, it'll show you 36,000. So, anything that you want to search, it will search.
So, that's another way, that's another reason to use keywords, is then you can just search for an individual keyword. If we want to find all my pictures of dogs, boom, there's dogs. My hero. Right. So I just double click to make it big, or double click to make it back to the grid mode. So again, I can sort it then by pick or capture time or order that it was added to the catalog or edited, or all kinds of different things there. So I can also search by attributes, meaning I can search by ratings or flags or colors, or I can search by metadata. So if I want to find all the pictures that I shot with my Canon 6D Mark II, it tells me I have 202 photos. When I click on it, it shows me all 202 photos. Or if I want to search for all cameras and anything that I shot with 70 to 200, that's the wrong, called the EF 70 to 200. So there's 20 to 70, 1,500 photos. So you can search by, all this crazy metadata too, if you know that, I shot one photo with my iPhone. So you have all this crazy searchability based on all kinds of things. So again, the middle of the pane is your grid, or tapping E will take you to the expanded view. And so the same thing is happening down here in the lower corner. So you can see, you can just click on the grid or the loop view. Let me go to so if you have 2 photos that are pretty similar, let's say that photo, and you want to compare them, you can click on the X and Y and it will bring them up side by side. And so you can make one the select and one the candidate. And if you have a lot of similar photos, you can just go through and do a comparison and say, well, this one's better than that one, and I'm gonna make that one an X or that one a pick, and just flip through and using the keys on your the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can flip through your pictures pretty quick that way also.
Oh, wow.
And just say, okay, that one's better than that one, but what about that one? So
it goes through as a candidate.
yes, and then you can make the candidate the select by double clicking on it, and then so you can just edit your close ones that way. Another way you can do that is, let's say we click on the first one. I'm going to hold down my shift, click on the last one. I can then use this mode that they call the survey view, and it'll show all 5 photos. at once. Now, if I want more room on my desk, on my screen, so I want to get rid of the side pane, so I'm going to hit my tab key. Now it's showing me all 5 photos side by side. Tab gets rid of all the panes on the side. It is. So that, so I can say, okay, I know this one's no good. I can, or that one's great. Let's go that way. I can give that one, flag that as a pick, and you can see it moved over to the left because it sorts them by that way. If I make this one, which one is my least favorite? That one's, that one's not good. I can make that I can reject that, and it moves it that way. I'm going to unreject that one because I don't want to reject it. But
so tab brings back the way it was.
So tab will bring back the other panes. So if I then don't want that photo, so if I'm whittling these photos down, I'm trying to figure out which one is my best. If that one is not, I can also just hold down my Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows, click on it, and now that one is unselected, and I'm only viewing 4. Or I can click on that one, and I only have 3, okay? That one's too dark, so these are my 2 best. So now I can make a decision which one I like best by comparing them. Or if I want to bring one back, I can come back down here in the film strip, hold down my Command key on my Mac or Control key on the Windows, click on the photo, and it'll add it back to that view. Pretty cool. Next button down here is facial recognition. If you select a photo and then click on that, it will, in theory, find all the other photos of people that look like you. There are a lot of people who look like me. She does not look like me. I'm sorry. Okay, so much for facial recognition.
That's good.
So one of the things that the CC version, the cloud version, does is it will search. You can't keyword in that version, but it will search for images based on it looking at the images, and it is amazing. Like I put in barn, and it found all my barn photos, even if they weren't keyworded barn. Dog, it's absolutely amazing. And it, it misses on quite a bit, but it was really pretty eye-opening that they're at the ability to see objects within your photo. The bad part is, like, you can't type somebody's name and have it find that name because it doesn't know names if it doesn't have any keywords, but it will do amazing searches there. So let me go back to my grid view. Next across here is the painter, the spray can. With the painter, you can quickly add, or you can do all kinds of things with the painter. So let me click on it, and you can add it to target collection. So let me change what it's doing. Let me add keywords. So if I want to add keyword, I know it already has balloons on there. Let me add keyword color, colorful. Okay. So as I come on a photo, if I click on it, it will add that keyword to the photo. If I want to do multiple photos, I just hold it down and spray across, and it is spraying that keyword on all those photos. It's kind of a fun thing. You can do the same with the target collection. So if I want to add all these to the target collection, let me change my target collection to the test one so I can not mess up things. So if I want to add these pictures to the target collection, I just spray across there, and now when I look at my Lightroom test target collection, there they are. Pretty cool. So there's all kinds. You can add keywords. You can change the labels. You can just go spray can crazy if you want. Do all kinds of fun things with that.
The cost of admission right there.
Isn't that fun? Next is the sort area. So you can sort ascending or descending just by clicking that. And it depends on the rating. And then again, you can sort by capture time or all of these other crazy things. you know, instead of using keyboard shortcuts, you can click on the flag to make it that whatever you want it, the pick or the delete, or I'm sorry, rejected. It's not called delete. I always call it that. Click or delete, rejected. If you want to add star ratings, you can click on them. So if I want, that one's a 4-star, whatever the hell that means. So actually I'm sorting now by rating. So there it went up to 4 stars. You can see I have some that are 5 stars. You can also just use the keyboard number. So if you want, say that moon photo, I want that to be a 3-star, tap 3 on my keyboard and it gets 3 stars, or tap 5 and now has 5 stars, or tap 1 and it has 1 star, or 0 and it has no stars. So you can just tap the numbers on your keyboard if you like to do the stars. Colors, again, you just click on the colors, or you can see that the color shows up underneath it. So the color, it will change the color of the frame around it when you do the color, or when you have it selected, it does a thin outline around it. And if you want to change the color, you can click right on that little color box there and reselect the color or go to none. So if you want to make it red, you can just click there and it goes red. This is the rotate. So if your photos came in sideways, you can rotate it. Or if you're, hey, that does look kind of cool. If you like sideways pictures, you can do that. Stretch the size of the thumbnails, and you can add or remove any of those modes by clicking here. There's also a navigate, so if you're want to just click on this to go through your photos, you can do that. There's also the slideshow. I am not going to do that because that takes forever, but whatever photos you have selected, you hit slideshow, it will create a slideshow and do a full screen slideshow on your monitor for you.
Can you share that paint thing one more time?
What do you want it to do?
So just copy keywords or apply keywords.
Okay, so I click on the paint can and select keywords there, and then I add whatever keyword I want here. So
oh, I see. Okay, all right.
And then
okay, gotcha.
Then that keyword, and then hit enter or return on your keyboard to select that, and then that becomes the active keyword it'll add to the photo.
Oh, so it'll paint that word onto all the photos.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And when you're done with that, click done. So if you want to remove any of these things from your tray there, you can just check it and it'll go away, or uncheck it, the rotate, which I rarely use.
Lauren?
Yes.
Marcia, I do have a question, but it's back on those little, I think they're called previews?
Okay.
If you didn't have standard selected when you imported, can you ever change that?
You can make smart previews later. You can change from bigger to smaller, but if you did minimal at first, I don't believe you can then change them to a larger one.
Thanks.
Threat has been detected.
Any other questions? Okay, onward. Well, I'm glad we have another hour because I was thinking, boy, I didn't get everything covered I meant to cover tonight, so good. So on the right panel, we have the histogram. Now, a histogram shows you the tonal values of your image. Actually, it shows you the tonal values of the scene that you photographed, not necessarily your image, but it kind of works together. So you'll run into people who will tell you that they can tell you if your exposure is right by looking at the histogram. Pardon my French, but they're full of shit. Because the histogram is dependent on the number of bright or dark areas within the scene. It can tell you if your highlights are too white or your shadows are too dark. So when you look at a histogram, the left side is the dark side, the right side is the light side. So if you're pushing up against the wall, as I call it, on either side, on the left side, you're losing detail in your shadows. On the right side, you're blowing out your highlights, or you're making your whites too white. If you have to make a choice when you're making an image, you'd much rather have your picture a little too dark than a lot too white. Once you blow out your highlights, you can't get them back. If the whites are gone, there's nothing you can do. If the shadows are clogged up, you can probably open them up a little bit. But the lumps in between are totally dependent on the values within the picture. So we can see this picture right now of the boxing match has a lot of black in it and a very little white and a couple of midtones. So our histogram shows a lot of black because there's a lot of black in it, and a bump in the midtone where this color is, and then just a little bump where the white is. So the photo beside it is going to have a totally different histogram because it is a different tonal value. So you can't look at either one of those and say, oh, that histogram is better than that one. Unless you're photographing fog. If you're photographing fog, you're going to have, if it's pure only fog, you're going to have a bell curve that goes up and down like that. But other than that, it's just going to, every histogram looks different.
What do the colors mean? It's sort of...
So it also shows you the color. So a photo that you're looking at here is made up of 3 colors, red, green, and blue. And so it'll also show you the red, a histogram of the colors, which I've talked to a lot of people, done a lot of reading, and I can't figure out what difference that makes because there's no way to adjust the red histogram if you're shooting something. You're adjusting the whole thing. So, you know, a lot of cameras will show you 3 different color histograms on the back of them when you're taking a picture, and it's like, well, I guess if my reds are getting blown out, I need to lower my exposure. But if the reds are getting blown out, so are the whites. So, you know, so. But in Lightroom, this box also shows you your metadata, what ISO you shot it at, what lens, f-stop, and shutter speed. And sorry, and I'm gonna choke. When we get into the develop module, I'll show you some more things that the histogram does, but it is always there, so you can see the different looks there. If you click there, it'll take you to, it'll build you a smart preview and then show you more info about that photo, the original photo. So here in the library module, you can do a little bit of development to a picture if you want to. So you have some default presets, or you have some presets, default ones that are included with Lightroom. You can buy or download free Lightroom presets and include them here. So if you, just like when we imported, if you know that you want to have, if you like the look of bleach bypass color preset, you click on that and your photo is going to change. I'm going to bring it up to full size mode. So, you know, that looks pretty ugly in my view. So I'm going to go back to the default. So, you know, you can, you know, there's all kinds of different presets you can add to them or whatever. You can change the crop ratio. So you have your standard. So your camera takes a 2:3 ratio. So the picture is 2/3 as high as it is wide. Or, you know, if you're making a print, a 4:6 is a normal size print. If you're doing a 5:7, it's going to crop in from the side. If you do 8:10, it's going to crop in even more. So you can change your crop ratio right here. It is probably one of my favorite terms is more better. I love saying more better, and I'm now at the point where I always warn people I'm going to say more better, and I know that's not proper English, but I love it. So sometimes I just say more better and watch people kind of cringe and say, really? Is he saying more better? So anyway, it's more better to do your cropping in the develop module, which we'll talk about next week. But you can change your crop ratio here, and there's reasons for you to do that, and we'll talk about it And you can also just make it a black and white right here if you want. But again, I think that's better to do in
Maybe you could do all this in library.
in the develop module. You can change your white balance. Every source of light has a different white balance or different color temperature. So daylight has a color temperature of 5,200 degrees Kelvin, which is considered white light. A fluorescent light is green compared to daylight. So daylight is daylight basically at noon. Tungsten light or a typical old light bulb is yellow compared to daylight. So if you shot your if you shoot in RAW, you can change your color balance real easy. If you're shooting JPEGs, it is much trickier to correct an improper color balance. I am not a fan of very many automatic things on a camera. I shoot manual just about everything except color balance. I go ahead and do an auto color balance on my camera because I'm shooting RAW, and I almost always adjust my my white balance in Lightroom when I open the photo. So
Use a light meter?
I use the light meter in the camera. I don't carry a handheld. No, I'm not that exact. So if you shot it in daylight, and it should be tungsten light, as you can see what happens if that would have been a tungsten light bulb, it would have looked like that. Or if it's a cloudy day, it's going to be a little bluer, so it warms it up. So yeah, shot. So you can do that, and you can do some quick tone adjustments. Make it darker, make it lighter. Ooh, that looks good. Not. Okay, and remember, we're working on a preview. We're not touching that original, so we can always go back and reset any changes we did. So.
It's got a lot more options, and I'm assuming it's using a newer version of the program.
Yeah. So the question is, he's seeing a lot more options on my version than his version. He's using version 6. Yes. Yes. I highly recommend if you're using version 6 or 5. At some point, you're going to have to buy into their subscription. Just go ahead and do it, because there's so much, as you're going to see next week, that it does with the newer versions that 6 doesn't. So at some point they have you, so might as well just give it up. Below the quick develop is keywording. So here's where we can enter more keywords and you know, as we start typing, you know, the ones we've already used that are with those letters will appear, so it makes it easier. I don't know what I was going to type, but where we have green bird. Well, usually I spell out the name of the state too, so I didn't there. So you can see I VER, I get Vermont and just hit enter, and it enters that. So beneath that, it gives you also keyword selections based on the last rounds of keywords that you've used, or keywords that are similar to what are already being used.
What we got going on now?
So if I hadn't had Vermont in there as a separate, which I don't, I have it as a phrase, so I can just click on VT and it adds it. So it's giving me some suggestion based on keywords that are there and other keywords that have been used with that group. And you can create a set of keywords. So let me edit this set. So you can see if I have the outdoor, I've already selected all these words in my outdoor photography set. So I can just quickly click on that keyword set, and it will add those keywords to the list. If I want to create a new list, a new set, it uses whatever keywords you've put in there, and then you can save that current set in a new preset. So the current settings as a new preset there, and then you can delete or rename it or edit that set. So when you edit You can add whatever words you want to that.
Black and white, put a little bit of cream in it.
Okay.
I do that.
So beneath that is the keyword list. So these are all the keywords that you've ever used to keyword. You can see I have a pretty solid list of keywords, and it shows you how many times you've used that keyword. So beach, I have 965 photos shot on the beach. If I want to see those photos, I can just click, and there are all my beach photos. And if I go to the grid mode, you can see I have a lot of photos that I've keyworded beach, and it also pulls up the metadata there. So if I don't want to see that metadata anymore. Okay, so all the keywords that I've ever used. So if I'm not sure if, so you'll notice here that I do one of the big mistakes. I have bird as a keyword, and I have birds, plural, as a keyword. That's a bad thing. Because if I search birds with the plural, I'm not going to find bird as a singular. So I really should only be using the plural. So that way I always capture that keyword when I'm searching. So you can see 1,884 times I've used bird. So really what I need to make sure I do when I'm doing a search is search the singular, not search the plural. So when I keyword, I should put in the plural. When I search, I should put in the singular. That way I make sure I cover bird within birds. So you can see you also can have phrases. So like birds in flight. So that becomes a phrase. And when you're putting in the keywords, you use a comma within a phrase. So birds in flight, comma, owl, comma, snowy owl, comma, that kind of thing. So keywording is the real base and the most time consuming when you're initially putting your photos in, but the most time saving thing in the long run. So
Lauren?
Yes.
Excuse me. When you're talking about the bird and birds, the plural, if you search on birds, do you also find bird singular?
No, you do not.
Okay, so bird in flight and birds in flight would be completely different.
Correct.
They are all unique. You can't
exactly
have one and say it's going to look for the rest of it.
Right, but it will go the other way. It will find bird within the word birds, but it won't find birds because that has one more character than bird.
So if you type in birds, it will also bring back bird.
No, the other way. If you type in bird, it will bring back birds. But it will not find birds, will not find bird because it's one more character.
Okay. And bird wouldn't find bird in flight?
Yes. Yes, that would.
Okay.
Because that's a phrase. If your search is for contains, if it's exact contains all or contains or doesn't, you can search for doesn't contain or start with. Or,
okay.
So if you do contains all and you search for bird, it's not going to bring back bird in flight.
Okay. I understand.
Okay. So then beneath our keyword list is the metadata. And so this is showing you all the information that has been either captured by the camera, added by Lightroom, or now you can add more information if you want. So let me find a photo that. So when we imported, remember there was the ability to add metadata. There I have it add to all photos. I have it add my copyright information, the creator name, my name, my website, my email address in a field. So if anybody finds one of my photos and nobody has stripped out the metadata, I hope they will find me to pay me to use it. But it also makes it easy for me to find my photos that people have stolen and aren't paying for. So makes it easier to find your photos. So you can see there's a ton of metadata here, and you have all these different the EXIF and IPTC are, you know, so you've got the time created and just all this stuff. So if you want to add, you know, if you have your contact info and you want to add a title, the job title, or address, city, all of this, and this information does travel with the image file as it, if you output it or send it to somebody else, that info will all go with it. So there's a ton of information about the file that shows up. And you can create presets for that also. So if I edit a preset, so you can see all this different information you can add to that file. Now, do you need to? If you're putting your photo out on the internet, it's not a bad idea. I mean, if your camera has a GPS built in, it will add a GPS location. On the final night, we'll talk about exporting photos and all of that. When you export and you're going to put them on the internet, you can strip off metadata, which is probably a good idea if you like privacy. Because if you have a picture of your favorite grandchild and you have a GPS location on it, you're telling people exactly where your grandchild is. So it makes it real easy for people just to drive right there and find the kid. So it's good and bad. So actually in this, whatever set I have here, I don't have this preset. I don't have, there we go. So here's my normal. So copyright status is copyrighted. All usage by written permission only. URL, where it's created. So I've added this, and so it automatically goes on to all of my photos.
Can you explain copywriting like real quick?
Yes, I'm a fanatic. The moment that you take a picture, it is protected by the US copyright laws. You have to do nothing else.
Have to pay, or how do you get?
You don't have to do. You don't have to do a thing. You are immediately protected. If somebody violates your copyright, which means they use your photo and you didn't give them permission, you can sue them for damages. If you had, so then you can, before that, when you create and before you publish, which means show it to anybody, you can register your images with the US Copyright Office. And you can do that in batch, and you can upload them. And it's now been, the price has been raised to $75 a batch. And I forget what the limit is, but it's hundreds of photos that you can do for 75 bucks. If you register your photo with the Copyright Office, when you sue for damages, you can also sue for your lawyer fees. You get more money if you had registered it, but you still are protected and have the ability to sue. If you put an image on the internet, I cannot use it without your permission. But most websites, especially social media, if you read the fine print, they can use it. And they can use it for anything they want, and they can sell it to anybody they want, and you have given them that right by agreeing to their terms of service. but you are protected by copyright, and you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to say your picture's protected. You don't have to do anything. I add that information to my pictures because a lot of people don't understand that. They think if a picture's on the internet, it's free and I can use it for whatever I want. Well, it is totally wrong and bogus. And there are lawsuits daily. I know one photographer who hires, he's a very prolific photographer, and he has a full-time staff member who searches the internet for people who have stolen his photos, and he keeps a lawyer pretty busy, and he makes about $225,000 a year off of chasing down copyright violations. And the copyright law is very clear. If a company has violated your copyright and you call them on it, there's no lawyer anywhere that's going to say, well, it was kind of okay. The lawyers will say, pay them, pay them right now, and companies do. Individuals, it's a different story because they might not have any money, but the most famous recent thing was when the Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was shot in Tucson a few years back. The photographer, a studio photographer, had taken pictures of, there was a child who was killed. I remember how old she was. A school-age child was killed, and her parents gave the media copies of a photo of her, and they all ran it. And the studio photographer said, wait a minute, I own the copyright to that, and had his attorney contact all these media outlets, and they all said, oh, okay, and send him money, because they, they'll do it until they get caught. And it's $1,500 a violation, and this guy made a ton of money, and it became public, and he was right, but he got pummeled by the community for profiting off of the death of a young girl, and he kind of screwed up. He should have set up a foundation or something, and given some money back. But the same thing happened at Columbine when Columbine, they took pictures out of the school yearbook. Well, somebody owned those photos. You can't do that. And the media companies know that, and they'll do it. They'll steal them until they get caught, and they just figure, what the hell. But yep.
If you're outside, you're shooting street photography, for example, and you shoot somebody with an interesting outfit, but in the background is say a mural, and that mural belongs to someone. Could you be liable for something like that?
So the question is, if you're photographing something and you take a picture of artwork or a mural in the background, it depends on what you're using that photo for. If it's for commercial gain, yes, you have violated a copyright, and they deserve money. If you're watching TV, if you watch reality shows, you'll notice the artwork on the walls are blurred and all the time, because they don't want to pay the rights to use that image in. They don't want to track it down. They just rather blur it out. Doesn't matter if it's public or not. But if you're doing it as a news report, then it's considered to be fine. You can't. That's not a problem. But if you're selling it like a poster, then you're in trouble. Or so. It depends on the use. Okay. So where are we here? So below the metadata, let me close that. We have comments. Comments are not supported. Comments have been in Lightroom as long as I can remember, but they don't do anything. So I don't know why the hell they don't take them off or make them do something, but it ain't supported, has never been supported, and it's still there. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Okay, any other questions on what's going on in that panel in the library mode? Okay, so I'm gonna come back over here to the left side. Anybody use Instagram? Do we have any Instagram fans? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Do you all follow me? Yes, I hope so.
Yes.
So on the left is called Published Services. So at the bottom of the column, Published Services let you quickly send your photos from Lightroom directly to some other service. So you can see here, like Adobe Stock is already comes with it. Facebook, you can automatically have a photo go straight to your Facebook page. You just have to fill in your login. If you use Flickr, Instagram is a fairly new one, and so Instagram. So here are all the photos that I've posted to Instagram straight out of Lightroom, and you'll notice that they are color-coded yellow. That's the only color coding I do. That's how I remember which photos I've uploaded to Instagram. So what I can do is if I come back to all photos, and let's say I haven't posted this photo yet to Instagram. So that was from Iceland. So let me pull up my keywords. So what I do is I have a text file of keywords. Let me copy them. Can you see the keywords online, folks? Or are you only in Lightroom? Only Lightroom?
No, I see your files.
You're seeing them. Okay. Okay. So I have a list of hashtags, keywords that I'm using in Lightroom, and on the right side where our metadata is, when I install that plugin, there's now a plugin that adds Lightroom Instagram, and I copied those others and I can paste my hashtags right into there, and I can add some more, but there is a limit, and I forget what the limit is, but I have about 5 that I can add to it. So I'm going to add Iceland. I'm going to add pound black beach. I'm going to do a pound mountain. So hashtags on social media, people search for them, and it works. And so this is so in the caption I'm putting, this is Esterhorn, Iceland, black beach at during sunset. Let's say that. It wasn't really, but we'll say that, okay? No. So now if I add this photo, oops, hit enter. If I add this photo to my Lightroom, where'd it go? Where'd it go? It's down farther. There it is. Drag that and drop it into my Instagram photos. Now when I click Instagram photos, that is ready to be published. And if I hit publish, it does it. You can see in the
Status bar.
bar at the top, the status bar, thank you, that is working, and that is now on Instagram. And if I go to Instagram, Marcia will have liked that within 5 seconds. Oops, why did I get into a... So let's go to my Instagram. Let's see how many people have liked that in moments here. Okay, let me refresh.
Done.
Thank you, Marcia. Come on, refresh. There it is. Oh, 2 people love it already. So there it is on my Instagram feed. If I refresh again, there'll be 10 likes on it. It's just not yet. So that's a very fast way to upload pictures to Instagram or Facebook or Flickr. If you use a printing service, lots of places that handle photos have a plugin for Lightroom now. So you can, if you log into your settings, you can just upload right out of Lightroom and not have to do anything else, and it's a great thing. And then the other cool thing is I can make this Instagram photos my target collection, and then back in when I'm looking at all photos, if I want to add them to, so if I why am I getting that so much? So let's sort by pick. So there's a light cave. I like that one, or an ice cave. So if I tap B on my keyboard, that has been added to my Instagram collection right away. The plugin will only let you upload 5 images at a time, though. So you can only add 5 pictures. So now if I go back down to my Instagram publish services, you can see if I go to grid mode, I now have 2 photos ready to publish, but I didn't caption them, so I'm not going to publish them right now. But I'm a little behind on getting my Iceland photos to Instagram. But
And how would you publish them? Just hit P?
Just hit publish down here on the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
So once you have them under new photos to publish, you just click on publish down here, down there. So if you want to add more services, actually, let me delete these out of here before I forget and publish them accidentally without all my caption stuff. If you want to add, yes.
Do you have to worry about metadata on those?
Do you have to worry about metadata on those?
I would think that gets stripped off.
It says something about it.
So you can save the photos. That's a bad thing, though. You can save all the photos. You have me curious. I don't know. You can save a photo and then see if you can open it in Lightroom or Photoshop and read the metadata.
Okay.
I believe so. I would think yes.
Yeah.
I would think yes.
Most photos you can.
Yes. So if you want to add more services, you click on Find More Services Online here, and it'll take you to Adobe's webpage, and you can see there's just a ton of services that you can add to, or get presets, color presets that you can add.
Just get presets.
So extensions. So you can either get your published services as a download from whatever site you use frequently, or through Adobe. And then if you download them through a site, they'll include instructions on how to incorporate them in Lightroom. So it's a pretty easy thing to do.
Lauren, are you going to show us anything about watermarks?
Yes. In fact, let's talk about exporting now. So when you're all done with your photos and you want to share them with somebody, you have to export them out of Lightroom, which again is a misnomer because your photo is not really in Lightroom. It's exporting. Now, when you export, it is taking the information from that sidecar file that it made and says, okay, Lauren said, I want this photo to look like this. The original didn't look like that. It was a color photo, but I want the copy to look like this. So it is exporting. At that point, it is actually making a physical copy of the original and then using all the information from the sidecar to make that copy. So then you now have a copy of the photo. So let me get back up to all photos. So if I want to send this photo to somebody or put it on my website, I need to export it. So I select the photo, then I click export, and I get a lot of options, starting with where do I want to export it. It will email it automatically to somebody. If you want to email, it will burn a CD or DVD for you if you have a burner hooked up to your computer. If you have some other third-party software, Photomatix or DxO or something, it will export it straight to that software. But mainly, or usually, you're just going to export it to a hard drive. And then it's going to ask you where. So you can do a specific location. So you can select what photo or what folder. It could be the same folder that your original's sitting in. It could be a different one. It could be your pictures folder or your desktop or whatever. So if you're going to choose a specific folder, you just click on that. Then you go through the menu system, decide what folder you want it in, click choose, and it becomes, that's your folder. You can also have it create a new subfolder within that folder if you'd like. And you can have it added back into the catalog, have the exported photo added back to the catalog. I think that's a pretty bad thing to do, because then you have a duplicate of your original and you don't know which one's which. And that can get pretty crazy. I haven't come up with a reason why I would want to add it back to the catalog, unless there's something that I'm doing to it during the export that will be obvious to me visually when I look at it. If the file exists with the name, it'll ask if you want to overwrite it or skip it or choose a new name, or just ask what to do. I leave it at ask what to do. You can rename when you export. So depending on what you're doing with it, you can give it a custom name based on all kinds of different things. So custom settings, say I want to edit that. So right now I have it using the title, which we didn't talk about title, did we? Huh. Original number, you can just file name, you can have all kinds of options you can add to the custom. So then it'll show you the name there and how you want your extension to be. Nobody does video, so we don't have to talk about video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. But it will export video, and you can change the format and the quality. So then you can tell it what format you want it to export as, a JPEG or a Photoshop or a TIFF or a DNG or the original whatever it started as. If you're going to put it on a website, you want it to be a JPEG. It could be a DNG, but you probably want a JPEG. That's what photos are meant for. If you're going to send it to a shop or a printer and you don't want to compress it, you probably want it to be a TIFF file. TIFF will give you the full resolution of the file without any compression, and it will give you the highest quality possible. If the company handles Photoshop files, you can send them a PSD, which is Photoshop file. So if you send them out to a lab to be printed, you need to ask them what file format do they want, and hope that it's TIFF. So if you're choosing JPEG, then you can choose the quality that you want. So the higher the number, the bigger the file. The lower the number, the more compression it's doing, and the smaller the file size. So I have found that anything in the 90 to 95 gives me some compression, but doesn't adversely affect the look of the photo. So I'm usually pretty happy when I'm doing 91, 92. Then there's color space. If you're putting it on the web, you probably want to stick with the sRGB. If you're sending it to a print lab, you need to ask them what color space they're working in. So what color space is different color spaces and different printing solutions, either printing press or inkjet printer or whatever kind of printer, can only display a certain amount of colors. sRGB is the least amount of colors. So if you're looking at a picture on a screen right now without anything, you're seeing millions and millions of colors. If you print it on a piece of paper, you're seeing only millions of colors, not millions and millions. So you see fewer colors, so you can never get a print as bright as the screen. Prints just can't be as bright as the screen because it's called gamut. There's not enough gamut. So online, there's also, so each file format, there's a color space, and the gamut of the color space is bigger depending on what color space it is. ProPhoto RGB has a much larger gamut, more colors visible than sRGB. And Adobe RGB 1998 is in the middle. So if you're sending it out to be printed by a printing company, you need to ask them what color space they're using. And if they say sRGB, you might want to find a different printer. because that means the gamut is pretty small. But you don't want to choose Photo Pro or Pro Photo RGB for a website because a lot of browsers can't handle that much color. So it's sometimes you'll come across a website that says we don't want a photo bigger than 200K or 100K or whatever. So you can set the file size limit and tell it don't make the file any bigger than that. But you only check that if you know what they want. So then there's image sizing. So if you're going to put a picture on a website, it's only going to be so big. So my website on my blog, the biggest image I can have within my blog is 610 pixels wide. How do I know that? I did a screenshot and then opened it in Photoshop to see how wide that screenshot was. If you're using a service, they can tell you what size it is. But you don't want to put a bigger picture up on the web than you have to, because it takes longer to upload, takes longer to download, and then people can steal it and print it. So you can resize it. You can make it the exact height and width. If you're going to send it out to be printed, you don't want to resize it. Send them the full file size. Send them the full thing. But you can just tell it the long edge. I want it to be 610. For galleries, mine is 910, which is why 910 comes up. You don't want to enlarge it. You don't want to make the file bigger than your original. So if you have a picture, say, of a whale and he's half a mile away, and you zoom in, you crop in on it, and it becomes a really, really small part, you're not going to be able to make a 16 by 20 print of that. So you don't want to enlarge. So it's safe to keep that checked so you don't enlarge it, and it'll give you a warning saying you're trying to make it too big. And then you can adjust the resolution. If it's going to a website or anything online, 72 dpi is what all monitors are. So you don't need to make it bigger than 72 dpi. If you're, or ppi, pixels per inch. DPI is the old printing term that I'm still hung up on. If you're having it printed, you want to ask the printer what file size do you need. It's going to probably be 240 pixels per inch or 300 ppi. But again, if you're sending it out to be printed, don't uncheck the resize it. Just send them the full size. Let them downsize it. You're always better.
If you do that, do you still mess around with the resolution and the?
No, if you uncheck resize, all of that, it goes away. You don't have to worry about it at all. That's exporting a full, the biggest file size possible.
Right, but you still have resolution 72 there. So do you have to do something with that?
That doesn't apply. It would be a half-hour discussion to tell you how that is so, but
so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right.
Once you click off resize to fit, it doesn't really matter what that says there.
Exactly.
Okay. Because you just get capturing all the data on the file anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you can add some sharpening, and you need to. There's two places you can sharpen your photos, and all photos need some sharpening, either here or in the develop module. And there's lots of discussion about which one's better, and the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. You need to sharpen based on what your output is going to be. So if it's only going to be on the internet, you have less sharpening than you do if you're printing it. If you're printing it on matte paper, it needs more sharpening than a glossy print. So you can do some sharpening. The advantage of sharpening in the develop module is you see what you're going to get. If you do it here, you don't see what you're going to get. But a lot of times in the develop module, you don't know yet. You might not know yet how it's going to be used, so you don't know how much sharpening to do. So I tend to add a little bit of sharpening in the print module, and then if it's going to be sent out to a lab to be printed, I'll go back into the print module and add more. If it's just going to be put on the internet, I'm going to do my sharpening here. So as you can see, I have a choice for matte paper, glossy paper, or screen, and also high, standard, or low. What does that mean? Nobody knows. But I know that when I do it for screen and the amount high, it looks pretty good. So I always go with that. So here's where you can tell it how much metadata you want to include with your file when you output. You can have just the copyright only. You can have all metadata. You can, you can not put what kind of camera you have, because somebody might say, hey, that's a good camera, I'm going to come steal it. And you put your GPS location, so I know what kind of camera it is and I know where it is. So that makes it pretty easy. Can you put in there what time you're not home? Yes. So if you have all metadata, you can also remove the location information and your personal info if you'd put that in originally.
Lauren, just to go back to shopping for 1 second.
Sure.
If you're doing printing, you would do it shopping for either matte or glossy, and you'd leave high.
Probably.
Okay.
That kind of depends on your printer, on the company that you're using. If you're printing your own, you're not doing that here. You're doing that over in the print module. So if you have a printer hooked up to your computer, this is not where you're going to do anything with your photo. We'll talk about that on the last night.
So if you send it to somebody like MPix or Bayphoto or someone, probably.
Yes, then here you would, most of the good labs have a page on their website that tell you how much sharpening to add or not add, or all that information, what color space they have, so they don't have to answer questions. But I have found that if I'm going to a print and I go to glossy paper, I haven't seen it get bad when I do high. Let's put it that way. No matter if it's matte paper or high or glossy. So you can add a watermark to your photos also. A watermark is simply a logo or text that is applied on top of your photo. I think watermarks are, for the most part, are a total waste of time if you're doing it to keep people from stealing your photo, because I can take it off as fast as you can put it on. If you're doing it to promote yourself, then it might not be a bad idea. So if photos are floating around and they have your watermark on them and they're not obnoxious, I've seen people put the huge copyright symbol over the whole photo, and it's like, well, I can't even see the photo now. What's the purpose? Why did you even bother putting that photo up? And they put this huge watermark on there, and only thing you look at on there is their name. It's like, oh, come on, show me the photo. So I tend to only watermark if I'm sharing my photo with another service provider, somebody who's going to put the photo up on their website and might not give me direct link back to my website, but I want people to know that's my photo. So if they want to find me, they can. So that makes a lot of sense then. So you can edit your watermark there, and a new box comes up, and so you can change the text. You can make it whatever font you want. You can make it bold or italic or as big as you want. You can move it around. You can have a logo. You can import a little logo and place it and move it around on your picture. For me, having my name in the corner of that picture absolutely ruins that photo. I do not want people looking in the lower left of that photo. I want their eye to just follow that around right up to the mountains. But if you like that, that's your thing. So there's lots of options here where it goes. You can move it around. Or you can put it up anchor wherever you want. Maybe that is good. Maybe I haven't thought about this enough. Maybe I need to. No. So that will add to the photo as it's exported. Then you have after it exports, what do you want to do? I usually have it set to do nothing, but you can have it show you the photo in the Finder. Open it in Photoshop or another application, or the whatever folder it's going to, it'll open in. So those are a lot of options to add every time you export a photo, right? So you might notice over on the left is something called user presets. So if I'm going to export a photo to my blog, and I'm doing that the same all the time, I can create, and I have a preset. So when I click on that, it automatically sizes it to 610 pixels. It chooses how much sharpening I want. It chooses what JPEG, what color space, what filing, and so I use the same every time. So if I want to create a new preset, I make all my selections here on the right side, then I click add, and it will give me a name and Lightroom test, so I don't use it again, and it will create that preset. So see, I have quite a few presets based on different things that I'm using the photos for. If I'm doing a slideshow, horizontal photos, long edge is 1029, vertical photos, long edge is 768, because the slideshows that I'm doing automatically sets that
export.
right. And so then I can just for this photo, if I want to export it as for my blog at 750, which some places on my website I can do 750 pixels wide. I just click there and hit export, and it exports it to whatever folder I told it to put it to. Pretty cool. But even cooler is if I want to export this photo, I can just right click on it, come down to export. There are all my presets sitting over there. So I can just go boom, and now that photo is gone to whatever folder I told it to go to, and I don't have to bother with looking at all those options because I have already set them up once. A marvelous thing. Obviously, you haven't done that before. we have a gentleman crying right here.
Hours of your life are never getting done.
I wish there were only a few.
Yeah, so it takes, it takes a little work to set up the preset in the front end, but in the long run, boy, those presets will just save you a ton of time.
Cool.
Any questions now? Are we done at 9:30 or 10:30?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. I'll sit here and talk all night until my throat runs out.
9:30 a.m.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was 9:30
Press
a.m.
the whole thing.
Right. Right. Any other questions, thoughts at this point? So this has all been recorded, so I will post the video tomorrow and send everybody a link. It might be late tomorrow because it does take a little work to do that. So if there's things that you missed, obviously there's going to be things that wait, what did he say? How did he say to do that? So you can go back and scroll through the video or watch the whole thing again if you want, if you're really, really bored. But I will see you again next Thursday at 6:30 till 9:30.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the 5th at 6.